In my last video I brought up how the next series I would be covering could be considered Man of Action's best work. Fortunately for me, the episodes that fit the criteria for this month each do a good job at showing one of the reasons as to why. I selected this particular episode for two reasons. The first is that it is early enough in the series that I won't have to talk around too many of the events that happened in it to avoid spoiling major parts of the show for anyone interested in watching it. The second is that out of my selection choice, this episode made what I would argue is the best use of one of the defining features of the series. Rex's amnesia. Oh yeah, I forgot to give a summary of the premise. Explosion, mutation, agency deals with it, takes in a kid that can cure some of them.
I'd say that sums it up.
It belongs to evolutionary biologist Dr. Gabriel Rylander. He was a leading expert in nanotechnology.
Was?
No one's seen or heard from him since the original nanite event.
Hold up! Are you saying this guy was there?
We have no evidence of that. But following the event, Rylander vanished, along with his wife and young son.
Son?
The opening actually does something different from what we've covered so far. The scene does have Lancaster commit an antagonistic act, but the message he gives beforehand doesn't blatantly display any self-serving tendencies. At the same time, none of the major characters know, or remember him, so they can't rely on any past experience to help them decide if he's acting for the greater good. Even when he does actually appear on screen and properly interacts with Rex, how sincere he's being still isn't completely made clear due to how quickly he will disconnect from the conversation to talk about his own long-term goals. The only one that has enough knowledge of Lancaster to have any sort of informed opinion about him is the main antagonist of the show, and he really doesn't have the best track record when it comes to honesty. This puts our main characters in a position where they want to find Lancaster for their own personal reasons, but none of them can really say for sure if he's trustworthy or not. This does keep one of the main points of tension, connected to this formula, present from beginning to end with well-founded reasoning and personal bias intermixing for every character involved. Yet, this focus and mystery also robs the episode of being able to showcase the main point of this formula. The closest anyone comes to having any sort of emotional turmoil over their relationship with Lancaster is Rex, but that has nothing to do with actually knowing Lancaster. Instead, it ties back into the fact that he doesn't know anything about him, or most of what Lancaster is talking about, and is desperate to have Lancaster's answers give meaning to his own life. Going over all of this, I would have to say this section earns a tepid pass.
Okay then, good to know.
Rex? Is that you?
You know my name.
Of course I do! I gave it to you!
As I brought up a few times now, Rex has amnesia. So when he learns that Lancaster was there during the nanite event, he feels as if he has a genuine opportunity to learn what his life was before he became who he is in the present. The organization he works with is interested in Lancaster because they believe his understanding of nanites would greatly benefit their own interest in handling the current outbreak. Both on a professional level, and for personal gain. It's important to acknowledge that the antagonists also want to use Lancaster's knowledge to benefit their side of the nanite conflict. With both groups deciding that if they can't use his inventions or discoveries for themselves, both would be better off completely eradicated. The only one who wants to avoid Lancaster being killed is Rex. Whether this is the product of Rex being just an overtly more compassionate person than his enemies and his allies, or if this is just because he legitimately gains nothing from losing Lancaster, is a question that doesn't really have a clear answer that you would expect from a show primarily targeted at kids. Which leads into both what is the primary addition this series gives to the formula, as well as one of the reasons this series is so revered, the multifaceted conflicts. Obviously, the characters' visual design alone acts as a strong indicator of whether they're here to help others or just themselves, but regardless if they're good or evil, nearly every faction within this show will put their own pragmatic procedures over any conventional sense of right or wrong. Even for an episode-specific character like Lancaster, his methods for getting the response he wants involves briefly mutating people, which could have ended with lasting damage. Something he doesn't seem to bothered by when brought up. It makes the audience have an easier time sympathizing with certain characters and the clearly bad choices they're making, while also generating conflict amongst the main characters that go beyond contrivances or petty disagreements. I wouldn't go as far to call it deep, but it does give the audience something different to think about upon rewatches of any plot-related episode. For that reason, I'm going to give this particular section an excited pass.
Never a dull moment. What did you just inject me with?
Everything!
Enough, okay? Do you have any idea what it's been like? Not knowing who I am? If my family's dead or alive? Quit with the rambling mad scientist act and give me some answers!
Forgive me, Rex. I've been so consumed with my own guilt I didn't consider what you must be going through. The truth is...
Importance is pretty much the subtitle for this episode. We learn more about the event that acts as the inciting incident for the series. We do actually learn more about Rex and what his past is like, and both Lancaster and Van Cleise are permanently changed thanks to the end of the episode. The only aspect of the show that isn't really affected by this episode are the other main and supporting characters. You could say we get to see a more considerate side to Six, but that wouldn't be anything new by this point in the series. With everything I've said, an excited pass for this section seems like an understatement, so instead I'm giving it a full-blown recommend.
Oh yeah, I'm just that good.
You guys really are that good. I always thought it was just me, making you look good.
I guess. We're the A-team. Thanks.
Admittedly, this probably wasn't the best trope to start with for this potential tradition, but it was a clear recurring element that could be found in multiple series, so I decided not to look down on it.
You're not funny, that's for sure.
With just a few more subs, I'll be able to reveal something big for this channel, so if you're interested, let's both do our best to get there.